Hi everybody, it's Ditkaz, and today's video we're going to go over my Spring 2024 anime watch list. And let me tell you, it was a little bit of a pain to make this list because there are a lot of interesting shows this season. Originally, I planned to use a VOD from a stream from a few weeks ago where I watched a bunch of the trailers for these shows during the stream and kind of reacted to those and chose my list from there. But YouTube didn't like that video too much and it got blocked before I even had it uploaded all the way. So we're gonna do it this way, and the video should end up being shorter because of that. Aside from going over the shows that made it onto my anime watch list for this season, I'm also gonna go over a bunch of shows that caught my interest but didn't make it onto my final list for one reason or another, and I'll give those reasons why. Let's do like I usually do and start with the shows that are airing on Mondays. First up on Monday, we have I was reincarnated as the 7th Prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical ability. This is a series about a commoner who's a mage at like a magic academy in this world, and he's killed by a nobleman's magic and kind of has a very strange reaction to it because he's obsessed with magic, and he ends up being reincarnated as the 7th Prince of the kingdom of the same world that he died in. This allows him to have all the time in the world, pretty much, to study magic to his heart's content. And it turns out that he is incredibly powerful because in this world, your birth does have a say in how powerful you naturally apparently are inherently. It's a really well animated show so far with a lot of really cool characters, and I'm interested to see exactly where this show goes this season. Next up, we have Chillin' in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers. And this is the first isekai show of the season that we're going over. And in it, the character Banaza, I believe is how it was pronounced, is a merchant from a fantasy world who is seemingly the only character in his world, just about anyway, that treats demi-humans and things like that as equals and pays them for their services instead of just treating them like second-class citizens or slaves. He gets transported to a different fantasy world to be a hero candidate to fight for this kingdom against the forces of the Demon Lord. He ends up being considered a disappointment and a failure because he has really low stats and no skills to speak of. And there's another guy who gets summoned right there with him who has really high stats, like 99s across the board pretty much, and has like really, I think he had really cool skills, but I don't remember the exact detail. It was a quick like window flash on the first episode. So Banaza gets kind of sent off and said, well, we don't have the ability to send you back home because that portal closed, so we're gonna give you some money and you get to live out here and, you know, be safe, have fun. But they kind of actually just tried to screw him over and were hoping that he would just die. Luckily for Banaza, he levels up after killing one monster and suddenly all of his stats go through the roof and he gains all kinds of crazy skills. And shortly thereafter, he levels up a whole bunch and he's just crazy powerful at this point and doesn't even seem to realize how powerful he is. He changes his appearance, takes on a different name, and decides to basically make the best of his life in this new world. Again, another show that I'm really interested to see how it goes. It's had some pretty interesting characters, and the theme song is pretty catchy. It's fantastic. The opening video for it is top-notch. Next up, we have the banished former hero lives as he pleases. In this series, a hero from, I'm not sure if it was a different world or not, dies and reincarnates, and he retains all of his memories and seemingly all of his powers from his past life, but it doesn't show as any special gift given to him by the gods whenever he hits a certain age. So he's viewed as a failure by his parents and is basically just cast out of his house whenever he hits a certain age. I forget if it was 16, 17, what it was. He basically just wants to chill out in the countryside, but he finds himself still using his strength that he'd kind of hidden his whole life when he rescues his former fiance, who's the princess of the First Kingdom, and then they end up going on some adventures to try to figure out some things that are going wrong in the kingdom, and there's darkness going on. Finally, on Monday, we have Re-Monster, and this is another isekai series that I've actually read a decent bit of the manga for, and I was really excited whenever I saw it was coming out this season. This show is about a guy who, in the regular world, so to speak, he had special powers. There were numerous espers in that version of our world, and his ability was that he could eat people or things and gain special abilities from them. He ends up getting stabbed to death by a woman and reincarnates as a goblin in a fantasy world, but he still has his ability to gain skills and abilities from things that he eats. So he ends up getting real strong real fast, he evolves, becomes more powerful, and it's all about him kind of finding out how he can live in this world and lead his people, so to speak, from this position as just starting out as goblins and becoming an incredibly powerful force in this world. And it's a really cool show. So far, it's been pretty good, the first couple episodes, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far they actually go in this first season. Now on to the Tuesday shows, and first up we have Unnamed Memory. And this is a fantasy series where the crown prince of the kingdom of Pharsis is cursed by a witch at a young age to where he basically can't continue his bloodline. It said that any woman who would carry his child, her and the child would die. I believe it was both would die, or maybe it's just the child. I don't remember. I believe it's like their body wouldn't be able to keep up with it. So as an adult, he climbs a different witch's tower in order to have a wish granted, hoping that she would be able to fix or cure his curse. She's unable to do that, but she said that she would help him find someone who could withstand the curse, basically, someone strong enough to. So he ends up saying, well, could you withstand it? And when she says yes, he says, well, how about you come leave this tower and marry me? That's the wish I want. And while she denies him that, she does decide to come with him to protect him and also still try to help find him a future wife. And it basically ends up following them on their new adventures as he keeps continually trying to just get him to marry her. It's a little bit more of a serious series despite that concept. And so far it's been really cool, and it shows a lot of promise. It's really well animated, and there's some interesting lore going back with like connections that the witch has to the prince's grandfather, because she's actually really old and keeps herself young through her magic. The other Wednesday show we have is Oblivion Battery. And this is a series about baseball, which I'm actually not a baseball fan normally, but I love a lot of really good sports anime and manga. And this series really caught my eye because, one, it's a MAPPA series, so you know it's got a pretty good budget. It should have really good animation, and it looked pretty interesting. The concept being that this duo that's known as the strongest battery, or a pitcher and catcher duo in the middle school levels in Japan, ends up going to a public school that doesn't even have a baseball team. This happens because the catcher, something happened and he got a head injury that gave him amnesia, and he forgot all about baseball and all about his friends. So he's there, and they end up getting invited to start to join a newly formed baseball club. And even though he doesn't want anything to do with baseball because he doesn't remember it, his friend, the pitcher, and another student who remembers them playing against them in middle school and who caused him to give up baseball, they get him to practice with them, and eventually they join the baseball club, as well as a couple other former star students from other schools who gave up on baseball. Seemingly they join the club, and they need a couple more members, so I'm not sure how that's going to roll out. But it's been really cool so far. It's interesting, it's funny, the animation's great, and it's going to be really cool to see like how this all meshes and see like what the other characters are that they end up having to round out their baseball team. I've only got one show on Wednesdays this season, and that is Konosuba Season 3. And this season picks up right after the events of the Konosuba movie, after Kazuma and the gang saved the Crimson Demon Village from the demon general Sylvia, the Chimera. Basically, their antics ensue still, just like always, until Kazuma gets a letter from the Crown Princess Iris of the kingdom. And interesting things happen from there, or should be happening from there, because she's a great character from what I remember from the game, the mobile game that I played, the gacha game they had for Konosuba. That's the only thing I know about her, because I haven't read the comics or the light novel or anything, or the manga or the light novel or anything. I'm looking forward to this. Konosuba is always great. It's always funny. And the first couple episodes have been great so far, with a pretty solid ending to the last episode where they introduced the princess. There's a couple shows on Thursday, and the first one is A Condition Called Love. And this is a high school romance story about a girl who doesn't really understand love and doesn't think she can fall in love with someone, and a boy who seems to love incredibly strongly, maybe a bit too strong. It kind of can be a little weird for him at some point. They meet because he gets dumped and she happens to see him sitting in the snow, and she kind of covers him with an umbrella because she's worried about him getting sick. And this causes him to kind of fall in love with her, and he approaches her the next day at school and asks her out. She's not really sure what to say and turns him down, but then eventually they decide to go on like a trial period so that she can see if she can fall in love with somebody. And it's all about like their relationship building, as she's kind of confused by the way he does things, and he seems to be coming on very, very strong, but she's trying to understand his feelings and see again if she can fall in love. and if she can fall in love specifically with him. So it's been cute. It's got some pretty nice, a little more simple animation to it, but everything's really smooth so far. It has good themes, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I always like to have a good romance series now and then. The other Thursday show is Windbreaker, and this is a high school battle series about a boy who is kind of shunned and made fun of for his looks because like part of his hair is white and it even goes to his eyebrow, and his eye color is different on that side. So everybody looked at him weird and treated him differently, so he kind of was ostracized. So all he really cares about is strength and fighting specifically. He transfers to a school called Furin High School that's known to have the strongest delinquents around, and his plan is to take the top of the school. Little does he know, a couple years prior, the school had become a group of protectors. The students of the school became protectors of the town, known as Bo Furin, and because he now goes to that school, he's expected to take part in that. So all of the locals end up actually being super chill and supportive of him because they see that he's a member of Bo Furin, and seeing how he doesn't really know how to react to praise and people thanking him for things and actually being nice to him has been really cool. And the fights have been awesome. It's a really cool show so far, and I am totally pumped to see exactly how it goes, because so far I thought it was going to be good from the trailer, and the first few episodes have been even better than I thought. It's absolutely sold on this show. On to the Friday shows, and first up we have That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 3. Following up on the events of Season 2, where at the end the slime main character Rimuru becomes a full-fledged demon lord after, not to spoil anything, but through certain events, becoming acknowledged as a demon lord. There are other powers in the world that don't necessarily take too kindly to exactly everything that happened there, leading up to him becoming a demon lord and the other treaties that he's making with these nations. So it seems like more forces are gathering, trying to decide how they are going to respond to the growing threat of Rimuru and his forces in the Great Forest of Jura. The other show on Fridays is The Misfit at Demon King Academy Season 2, Part 2. Following up on the events of the previous season, where Anos actually finally retook the mantle of the Demon King of Tyranny, he doesn't seem like he'd be able to continue going to school anymore. But he chooses to take on the persona of the young child prodigy transfer student Anosh, and goes back to school with his friends, and still ends up having to deal with some troublemakers because there's more forces and more enemies always in the way of trying to stop the peace that he's trying to build, maintain, and improve upon, because there's still people that don't want to treat the half-blood demons fairly or want to be able to get along with humans the way Anos wants them all to. So we get to see how he's able to continue addressing these threats as they keep going, which you got to figure at some point these people are going to stop messing with him, because every time they think they got him beat, he's just like, you think that's good enough for me? You think that's good enough to stop me? And just gives them the old Uno reverse card. So I don't know. But the show's really good as always still. So hopefully the story keeps going, even if it maybe ends up being a little repetitive. We'll see how it goes though. On to Saturday shows, and first up we have Kaiju number 8. And this was one of the shows that I was most excited to come out. I've been looking at the manga but haven't bothered to check it out yet because I have a decent number that I read, and there was a while where I wasn't reading any. But then I saw the trailer and saw it was going to be coming out this year, and I was just keeping an eye out for when it was going to be starting. And it's pretty cool so far. It's about a guy who, after his home, and I think some of his family maybe died, him and a friend of his, as a child, his dreams were to become a member of the Japanese Kaiju Defense Force, because in this storyline, this version of the world, kaijus are real. They attack Japan on a regular basis, and they have a whole like military force dedicated to stopping them. And he wanted to join it, but he failed to join it, failed to pass the test. So he works on a cleanup crew, and he's about to give up on that dream when somebody else kind of basically gives him the idea that, you know what, they're expanding the age because not enough young people are joining, so you should give it another shot. And just as he's about to basically resolve to go ahead and give it a shot, something happens and he ends up becoming a kaiju himself. And from there, we're gonna get to see exactly how the story plays out with him being a man who can turn into a kaiju fighting kaijus. So it's, so far after like one episode, it's been really cool. The animation's solid. The characters so far have been really cool, and always gotta love big monster battles. So let's go. Next up, we have The New Gate, and this is another show that I was actually really surprised and excited for because I didn't realize this was getting an anime, and I also forgot about it because I've read a decent bit of this manga, and it's been a few years now because, again, I got behind. I didn't read manga for a couple years, and I was going through the videos for everything, and I said, I feel like I recognize this character. Why do I feel like I recognize this name? And then I started watching, and I looked closer, and I said, I do know this show. This is going to rule as long as they don't mess it up. And so far, I believe one episode in, maybe two at this point, the series has been pretty good. Some people have complained about the way they have done the design for the main character Shin, but I don't think it's that bad. This series is about this character Shin, who works to clear a death game. It's a VR MMO where players got trapped, kind of like a Sword Art Online, and he takes it upon himself to say, I need to get people out of this game. I need to clear the game. So when he finally beats the last boss, he verifies that everybody's logging out and he's the last one in. And just before he goes to log in, there's a door that appears and a light shines. Next thing he knows, he wakes up and he's in a field and everything feels like real life, but he's still in the world of the game. And it turns out it's 500 years later. And he slowly finds out that a number of his familiars that were NPCs that he created still exist. So now he's in a real world version of the game that he played 500 years later with way higher stats than he had in the game, and basically trying to find out how he can live in this world and if there's a way out. And it's pretty cool. From what I remember, the storyline is super interesting. A lot of the characters are great, and I'm really excited for it. I can't believe I didn't know this was coming out with an anime, and I didn't recognize it the first time I looked at it on AniChart until I was originally doing the first attempt at a video for this whenever I was streaming it, and I went to watch the trailer and I said, I know that show. This is going to be awesome. It's on my list. Next up on Saturday, we have Dragon Raja, The Blazing Dawn. And this show I actually missed because it wasn't on AniChart. So I was actually on Crunchyroll looking to pick out make my list and all that. And I saw this show on their simulcast and I'm like, what is this? What's this show? And I watched the trailer for it and I'm like, sold. This looks super cool. It's actually based off a Chinese series, and it follows a character named Lu Mingfei, and he's planning on going to college, and he gets an opportunity to go to a school that he'd never even applied to and he hadn't heard of at all. Some things happen because he's not sure if he wants to go or if he wants to stay more local because there's a girl that he's interested in, and some stuff happens in the episode 0 they have, the prologue episode, and he decides to go to the school after all. And he ends up finding out that not only do they have crazy advanced technology and AI, but it turns out that dragons are a real thing in this world that have influenced numerous events across history, and this school trains people to fight them. And he also found out that his parents were alumni of the college, and it's, I guess, implied that the reason why they weren't the ones raising him is because they were doing work for the college, unless they died, which it hasn't really said yet. It hasn't confirmed if they're alive or dead. I assume they're alive. Hopefully they're alive. It'd be really cool to see him get to finally see his parents after basically spending his whole time being semi-mistreated by his aunt, uncle, and cousin, who just kind of treated him indifferently. They didn't abuse him. It wasn't Harry Potter style, but they weren't very nice to him. They kind of talked down to him and used money that his parents sent to help him out to buy their own stuff and make their lives easier. So it's a pretty cool show. The animations are really good. It does some really good 3D for the backgrounds and the buildings and stuff in some of the scenes. It's really smooth, and I'm really interested to see exactly how the storyline plays out. Finally, we have the Sunday shows, and first we're gonna go over Demon Slayer, the Hashira training arc. And this show hasn't started airing yet because it doesn't start airing until May 12th. And we're still only partway through April as of me recording this video. This season is going to take place after the events of the previous season of Demon Slayer with the Swordsmith Village arc, where all of the Hashira, or most of the Hashira, get together and decide that since there's not as much demon activity, they're going to take this time to each take turns individually training the Demon Slayer Corps as a whole to bring all of them up in power and skill so that they can be more prepared for the inevitable fights against Muzan and his army of demons, because surely he has already found out that Nezuko can now withstand sunlight after the events of, again, found out at the end of the Swordsmith Village arc. So things seem like they're really starting to come to a head. Hopefully nothing, I mean, I'm sure something's going to happen in this, but hopefully nothing too crazy. Hopefully not too many really cool characters die, but a lot of times we're good for 1 or 2 to die in Demon Slayer, especially since nobody major died in the last arc. So I'm sure we're going to lose some people here. I'm sure it's going to upset me, but can't be too bad. I'm really looking forward to it. Demon Slayer is always good. UFO Table is incredible with their animation. And I did watch the To the Hashira's Training Arc movie that had like the kind of in-between stuff. It had like the last episode of the last bit of the Swordsmith Village arc, as well as like a little in-between that should be like the early parts of the Hashira Training Arc, and that was really good. So I'm really, really excited to see how this season comes out, because I love Demon Slayer. It's great. The music is always good, so I assume that the themes are going to be good in this one, and the action is top-notch. The colors, everything. Let's go. All ready for more Demon Slayers. We're getting closer and closer to the end of it. And the last show that is confirmed on my list is Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2. After being cured of his illness, Rudeus has resolved to marry his childhood friend Sylphiette the Elf Girl, and his life continues in that fantasy world as their life begins together, and Rudeus starts taking more steps towards some of the other unfinished business he has in the world, like finding the other members of his family, specifically his mother, and kind of getting everybody back together again. So the first couple episodes have been really good. The show's always really well animated. It has really good music. The voice acting's great. Love Mushoku Tensei, love Isekai. This series is great. So looking forward to seeing exactly what all they get to, because now we're getting into the points that are all fresh territory for me, past the point where I last read, again, the manga of this series, and I haven't bought the light novels yet. Though eventually I do plan on it. I am still thinking about possibly adding a couple more shows. If I do, it'll only be 2 more, and it's only if I decide to add one specific show, then I'm gonna have to add a second one. And that's because the show Mysterious Disappearances never showed up on the Crunchyroll simulcast list. Their whole list was filled out, and I'm like, I guess this show's not gonna be on there. So I took it off my list. That's when I added Dragon Raja. And then next thing I know, it shows that it's airing there. So I'm like, I kind of really want to watch this show, so I might add it to my list. We'll see. If I do add Mysterious Disappearances, then I have to pick another one. Kind of have a few that I'm looking at. I'm looking at possibly adding as a reincarnated aristocrat. I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world. Studio apartment, good lighting, angel included. Grandpa and grandma turn young again. Astronaut or viral hit. More than likely, it's going to be the Aristocrat series. Even though I was kind of leaning more towards like possibly Grandma and Grandpa Turn Young Again, or Astronaut or Viral Hit. And originally I was planning on doing Studio Apartment, Good Lighting Angel Included, before I found Dragon Raja. I've heard some really good things about the Aristocrat series, so there's a good chance that it makes my list, but we'll see. There's a couple shows that couldn't make my list, but I'm super, super interested in because they're not on Crunchyroll. And again, currently everything I do watch is on Crunchyroll. Although 2 of these shows I could watch, it would just take a little bit more work because I still have to get it set up to where I can watch them on my TV. And that would be Mission Yozakura Family and Go-Go Loser Ranger, which are both on Hulu and Disney Plus, which I do have access to. Again, I just don't have the account hooked up to watch it on my TV. So it would just be a little bit more work to get that right now. Plus, if I was going to watch something on Disney Plus, I still have to get caught up on Tokyo Revengers. So I'm, like 2 seasons behind there, and I'm a little upset with myself for that. Real sad that one left Crunchyroll. The other series that I considered watching, but again, it's not on Crunchyroll, is Whisper Me a Love Song, which is on High Dive. And apparently this is like some peak Yuri romance series. It looks really cute. So sometime in the future, I'm sure that one's going to be on my list. There's also a number of shows that I'm not watching because I'm not caught up on those shows, and these are like second, third, however many seasons of it. These include My Hero Academia, that I think I stopped watching at like season 4, and I just haven't gotten caught up yet, and this is like season 7. The Irregular at Magic High School season 3, that I haven't watched season 2. I've watched season 1, and I believe The Honor at Magic High School. Sound Euphonium, which I haven't watched either of the first 2 seasons of, and this is season 3. And The Duke of Death and His Maid, which I believe this is also season 3, and I haven't watched the first 2 seasons. All ones that I have on my watch list. I just need to get caught up to eventually watch these in the future. But they all look really cool. And then we have the rest of them that just didn't make the cut for other reasons. Like I just didn't quite feel like they were the ones that hit me as like, I really need to watch these as much as some of the other ones on this list. These would include the Spice and Wolf remake, which I never actually watched all of the original, and I kind of want to watch that one first before I watch this one. And Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride. This one almost made my list. It almost did, but I just decided, you know what? I'm going to put that one on the back burner. It's going to go on my watch list. I'm going to watch it eventually, I'm sure, eventually, but not this season. God's Games We Play also looked really good. It has red-haired protagonist, or female protagonist, I should say, which I'm pretty much a sucker for those, with like Chivalry of a Failed Knight, Asterisk War, High School DxD, even though I haven't watched the anime. I'm sure there's other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head, but always a good time. Always love those kind of characters. This show, like people said, it might be kind of like smutty fan servicey trash, but I love that sometimes. There's nothing wrong with it. It looks entertaining. The colors look really cool. We'll see sometime in the future. Bartender Glass of God. And this is not a series I would normally watch, but it looks like the animation is insane, specifically on the drink mixing. And shows always get me whenever they go super hard on a point in the animation that, like I said, I don't feel they need to, right? So obviously it's about bartending, so you would maybe want to have some decent bar drink mixing animation, but it just looks crazy in the trailer. And I feel like it doesn't have to be that good to still tell this like slice of life looking story that you have. It's kind of like how in Your Lie in April, how the piano and the violin playing, the hand movements at the time especially, were just absolutely insane. And I feel like they didn't need to go that hard. Like, how much budget did they have for these hand animations? And it's kind of the same feeling with this bartender show and the drink mixing. It just looks kind of crazy, so I'm kind of interested to see what it's like at some point, but it's not going to be this season. There's also Train to the End of the World. This is kind of a weird, I don't know if it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic show where like these girls, one friend goes disappearing into like Ikebukuro, which I don't know exactly where they live in comparison to that, but they decide to take this train to Ikebukuro, and there's a dog, and it looks kind of interesting. The characters look cute, but like I said, didn't quite make the list, but sometime in the future. The Many Sides of Voice Actor Radio, and this is another series that looks like it's probably going to be kind of like a Yuri type series, but it's also like a Rivals type thing, because these girls kind of come off as like they don't like each other, but they have to work together and they have to act like they really like each other and are friendly with each other. It looks super cute. The voice acting seems like it's done really well. I mean, it is a show that technically is about voice acting, so that's pretty cool. I'm definitely interested to check it out at some point, but again, it didn't quite make my list for this season. Like I said, there's a lot of really good looking shows. And the last one is a salad bowl of eccentrics, which I don't actually remember what this series is about off the top of my head, and I didn't feel like looking it up before I started recording this. I just remembered that it caught my eye as something that I might be interested in watching at some point in the future. We'll see. And there you have it. There's my spring 2024 anime watch list, as well as a couple shows that I'm thinking about adding to it, and a number of other shows that really caught my eye this season. I hope you all enjoyed this video and maybe found a show or two that you're interested in and want to check out. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe leave a comment, because it really helps me out. And as always, if you want to see more of my content, you can find me gaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/Ditkaz. That's Ditkaz. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.